It's about how much effort you put into it.
Yeah.
If you love something so much, you go all in with it, anything's possible. I think I beat everybody in the division. I've fought all different styles. I fought strikers, wrestlers, grapplers, and I adjust to every single one of them because I could fight any way I want to. Thank you to everybody that's been with me from the start, everybody that's, had my back, had supported me, that believed in me. And this is for all of us.
So let's say if Belal loses, what happens to Belal? Is he ever getting that again while Leon's around? Or are we just got this weird, confusing, classic number one contender that never goes away but doesn't get title shots?
It depends on how this one happens. But he could potentially go into Carlos Esparza's territory where he needs 8 years to get back. Could potentially go that route. Because the issue I have with somebody like a Belal or that style, like the old Ryan Bader style that I keep comparing it to, or even the Tito Ortiz, is like, I think there's an evolution of the sport happening right now where it's like you've got to fight like Islam or Khabib on the ground. The rules are changing. They're no longer favoring just strict control. And I don't think it ever should have. It kind of got off on the wrong foot when you start to say, oh, well, that guy is on top of that guy. He must be winning. Obviously, there's a whole lot more elements to it than that. So if you ask me, 100%, I think that this is going to be one of those kind of fights where it's definitely make or break for Belal. That's what I think it is. He needs to be impressive. He can put on a gutsy performance and still lose, so he doesn't necessarily have to win. But most likely, that's going to be the scenario where he's going to win people over, is if he does something impressive in a win.
Everyone is telling UFC, everyone's telling Dana, everyone's telling Belal, we don't like you, you're not interesting, you don't get finishes, your personality's boring, all you wear is sunglasses. And it's like, we're not invested more than ever. Like, it's so cliche for a fighter to go out there and say, I've got a chip on my shoulder, I'm going to shock the world and prove everyone wrong. But he is the very, very point of that sentiment, isn't he? The fact that he has to go out there and take what he thinks is his and make it his. Because like you said, if he doesn't, it probably looks very bad for him and his future.
He is kind of up against it with a lot of fans. And the way you do that, generally speaking, is you win them over with your fights. Hey, Tommy, how you doing? I was looking at you.
Hey, it's me.
It is you.
There's this feeling that this is a defense for Leon. It's not Belal's big challenge. It's Leon's next defense. This guy that he has to get rid of. He's almost like a boxing mandatory because he's on such a win streak. He's got this spot, but it's kind of like no one's rooting for Belal like they are Leon to win.
Do you agree with that, Tommy?
I do not. I'm a massive Belal fan. I have been for a very long time. Sometimes publicly we'll talk about this, and it's so funny the reaction I get from people. I remember I tweeted something positive about Belal once, and somebody was like, why are you doing that? And are you trying to make people mad?
Okay, pause. Belal is your number one on this entire card. This is your favorite fighter to watch.
Oh yeah, dude, this is 100% the fighter I'm looking most forward to this weekend fighting and potentially hopefully winning.
Are you taking acting lessons? What is this? What are you talking about?
See what I'm saying? And this is literally the reaction I do get sometimes.
Well,
wait,
yeah,
so
I'm actually a huge fan of Belal.
Can we just ask why? Why do you find him so exciting? What do you like about him?
I don't know. I think I just picked up on him a lot earlier than most people did and have been paying attention to the types of things he does and says. Obviously this week with Embedded and everything, there's been a lot of people that have been more keen to the type of person that he is. And I feel like if you've known of Belal for a long time, he just seems like a good dude. He's an interesting guy. I think he could be a lot more exciting for fans than people realize in terms of his personality. And as far as in the cage, recently at least, I think his smothering style has been really engaging. Like the Sean Brady fight in particular, I thought, man, this is great. If he fights like this all the time, people are going to start catching on. I've been watching fighting now for so long. I don't really even care about the fighting as much anymore. I just like certain people because I like certain people, right? Their personality and stuff like that. Belal is one of those guys.
Did you love the Gilbert Burns performance? Was that a big one?
I love that he won. I will say this though. Of every fight that Burns has ever been in, that was the most significant strikes landed on him in a single fight.
But he had one arm.
Yeah, it's true. He did have one arm. He did have one arm.
So I get your point that maybe he's a bit underrated and that he's a nice guy, but that doesn't necessarily mean your fights are exciting. I think the Sean Brady is a nice departure. I mean, that was a pretty good performance, but I still am saying pretty good. Like, there was nothing about it that blew me away. I think here's the issue that most people have with Belal. Belal is almost like that fighter if you were to rewind the clock about 10 years ago when you had guys like Bader and Phil Davis in the division, where it's almost their sole goal is to just use what they went to university for. I know that's not what he did. He didn't, Belal's not an NCAA wrestler, right?
No.
But he has that style, I guess, is the point, right? Like, he's somebody that is essentially almost exclusively just using this, and the Sean Brady fight is an exception to that. But yeah, it's like he's just trying to wrestle people, control them, and win in as safe a fashion as possible. Maybe I need to rewatch some of these fights. Am I wrong about this, Tommy?
You know, as far as a style of fighting, sure, it's not the most exciting. But, I would also argue that, again, I think it just moments matter. Like that Sean Brady fight. The guy's massive up-and-comer, 15-0, and he battered him in those 2 rounds. And like you said, it was not his normal performance. If he has those little moments, even within his style, people will forget about that. And I think winning matters too.
The thing that Tommy's touching on a lot is that he likes the
him
guy.
over there?
Tommy.
That's him.
Tommy. He likes the guy.
That's
so he
me
wants
over
to see
here.
him.
Here I am. I'm here in person.
Rocket is like a hurricane over there.
Tommy wants Belal to win because he likes him. He enjoys the content he puts out. He enjoys the guy's personality, which is great. I like fighters just for their personality too. However, not everyone is going to go out there and do that extra research to find out these people. People just want to see their performances and then fall in love with the things they do inside the cage. But I honestly think the worst thing to happen to the welterweight division is for Belal Muhammad to win. Belal needs a moment for sure. He needs a 5th round head kick KO on Leon to do something for him. But if he goes out there and stifles Leon in a grindy cage fucking like manner, then no one's going to give a shit and everyone's going to turn off from the welterweight division. Khabib and Islam, they get criticism for like laying on top of people and stuff, but like, no, they inflict damage constantly. It was like the poor stereotype for Khabib style is Belal, and that's how Belal likes to fight.
I would argue that hating Belal is like hating Nickelback at this point in mixed martial arts. It's like the popular thing to do to dislike Belal because all the cool kids kind of like dogpiled him, right? So Connor was like just absolutely for no reason coming at Belal all the time on social media for a little while there. And I do think that it was just sort of a thing that caught on where it's like, oh yeah, it's really cool to just absolutely not like this guy whatsoever and make fun of him. Sort of to what Luke was saying about the division dying if Belal wins. The division has a lot of exciting guys coming up. I think regardless of who the champion is, between Shavkat and Gary and there's some other guys coming up that are a bit on the lower end there. I feel like this division is still going to thrive regardless because there are some interesting people coming up.
But I don't want Belal to win and then in his next fight potentially lose, or then we go back to Leon and do that rematch again. It's like for me and my entertainment, I much prefer to see a dominant champion, and I love a champion that stays in their weight class and continues that belt. But Leon has proved himself that he is willing there to fight the people who are next in line.
You were talking about if Belal had a horrible, grindy 5-round win against Leon. What do you think it does for either man, champion, challenger, or depending how that fight goes, when that fight plays out the way people think it's going to play out in front of a sleepy, boozy Manchester crowd?
If the fight goes exactly like you've just described, Tom, it does nothing for either man. The only plus I can see is that Leon gets another defense and we'll go, okay, yeah, he's clearly the best. Because if Belal wins, no one's interested in Belal. No one.
How dare you? How dare you, sir?
But it starts all over again with someone we're not particularly invested in, a large majority of people. And also, if Leon kind of just does his thing by points, we just say, oh, he's a decision merchant and he's not that interesting. Someone's got to get a big finish. And if that happens, then great, we can start getting all excited over again. But yeah, if it's just a Colby, I clearly won by points, 3-2, it's just not going to do anything.
The thing that is bad for Leon Edwards here is that this is a really tough fight that people are acting like is not a tough fight. When you go online, everybody's talking about, oh, he's going to punt his head into the cheap seats. Like their first fight clearly showed how bad Belal is, right? People don't like Belal, so they're all just like, again, dogpiling like, oh yeah, this is going to be a piece of cake. But it's probably not going to be a piece of cake, right? The first fight was a short notice bout. Belal had essentially 3 weeks to get ready for that, right? Because Hamzat dropped out. Yes, did not look good in the first round. However, absolutely uncharacteristic in terms of style. He was not in any way aggressive like he normally is. And of course, that was in part because of what Leon was doing. However, also ate that massive head kick and kept going. So he got headshot deaded and was fine in the first round, right? And then he gets his eye poked in the second.
In the short term, it's probably going to be a little worse for somebody like Leon if it is a boring fight. But people aren't going to remember that. He'll be the guy that has trailblazed in terms of championship history and being a truly dominant champion. Even if it's boring, people aren't going to remember that.
It all begun with a head kick. That's all he needs for the rest of his life. Even if Leon is in boring fights for the rest of his career and he wins all those fights, you can live off that one moment. And I think that's why fans and someone like me hasn't been captured by Belal, because he doesn't have that moment. Yeah, he had a good performance against Sean Brady, but it was a TKO where he kind of flurried on the guy. And it was sort of stopped before, some real shocking moment. I'm not saying I want to see everyone really hurt, but like it's you put the two highlights together and they pale in comparison. It's like we always talk about with Volk, until he escaped that guillotine from Ortega, not many people were a huge fan of Volk. It's like you need that.
That is really true, actually.
You need that defining moment to get people invested.
If Belal wins in boring fashion, that's not going to be necessarily great for him. It's not going to prove any doubters wrong, or, maybe it'll prove some doubters wrong, but it won't shut the haters up. It definitely won't do that.
Do you think there'll be an instant rematch?
No.
No, I do.
Too soon.
No, I do.
Two title defenses is enough?
He beat the greatest welterweight since GSP, and then defended against Dana's favorite. And then he's taken on the next guy. And also, don't forget, UFC 300, Leon was begging for every fight Dana would give him. And Dana come out and were like, I fucking love Leon Edwards. He's a great guy. He wants to fight every Russian I give him. So I think he 100% gets an instant rematch.
I don't see in any way whatsoever that being an instant rematch. The only way that can happen is if it's literally like the first fight where there's some sort of fucky scenario, where something goes wrong, an eye poke or something like that. But if he gets dominated over 5 rounds, or it's a boring fight for 5 rounds, nobody's going to want to see that. Shavkat's there waiting. Ian Gary, as controversial as he is, more people would want to see that than see a rematch of a boring fight. So that is one thing that you can definitely lose a lot. There's no doubt about that. Like, if you're Leon Edwards and you go into this fight and you don't put on an impressive performance, I don't see there's any way of getting an immediate rematch. Two defenses is not enough, in my opinion.
As not liked as he is, and I'm aware of that as a Belal fan, he could have a moment in this fight like Leon had. It may not be a head kick. It could be something else. Look, we talked about this before a bunch of times with Dan Hardy, right? In losing to GSP. And surviving all those subs, suddenly people were like, wow, I actually like Dan Hardy a lot. So I think he has the opportunity here to potentially make himself popular with some amazing moment like that, where people start seeing him in a different light. But I do agree with you that I'm sure the UFC at the moment is not looking at Belal as like, wow, this is going to be some amazing draw. We could do so much with this. Yeah. I'm sure they're hoping Leon wins. Shout out to our channel members who get to see what a disaster this was before it was edited. I'm just kidding. Channel members, thank you guys so much. Seriously, we can't do it without you. It's always awesome. And then people watching that aren't channel members, if you would like to become one, there's a join button. You get free exclusive content. Well, not free exclusive content. You get exclusive content, and you might have some say in our videos, and you'd get to see this entire conversation, which was a lot longer than the edited version. So, yeah, thank you guys so much.
Just before we end, are we leaving in the bit where we made Tommy cry? Because we don't like Belal, do we? So should we? Are we?
This is cheap. That's cheap. There was no tears. There was like one. Yeah. There was like one tear.
Sorry,
okay.
Can't hear you. Sorry. What? Oh, it's breaking up. It's breaking up really.